Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Dual Senses, where we give our 2 cents on all things PlayStation. This is Stephen Morrow.
And this is Alex Wolf.
And we've got, not really a lot of news, but we've got some things to say about some stuff that we've been playing.
Yeah, first of all, happy holidays, Stephen.
Yeah, that's right, we haven't had an episode since Krampus. Happy holidays.
Yeah. How was your Krampus?
My Krampus was more us than cramp. So
that's good. I think.
Yeah, actually, the strangest thing happened actually, and this is my favorite gift this year that I have received. The strangest thing happened, and that is my grandpa said "I love you" to me.
Is this your maternal or your paternal? No, this is definitely your paternal.
I don't know what those words mean.
On your dad's side.
Yes.
Holy shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I've never heard him say "I love you" to anyone. At all.
Did he say it to anyone else in your family?
No. I bragged about it afterwards.
I was say, like, did you brag about it? You should have.
Yeah, I turned to my sister and I'm like, Papa said "I love you" to me. I had tears in my eyes.
I can only imagine what her reaction was like when you did that.
Well, I mean, she was upset because she said that she was like, he never says that to me, but I'm like, well, it meant a lot.
Yeah,
it meant a lot to me.
It's a good moment.
So yeah, that happened. How were your holidays?
Not too bad, spent it with the in-laws, and we kind of just hung out a little bit by the fire and drank a bit, watched, first of all, fuck A Christmas Story. I do not understand the appeal of that movie. That was on ABC Family literally all day, and we weren't, like, actively watching it, but whenever we were, it was, like, pieces. So we collectively watched that entirety of that movie in chunks throughout the entire day. And I'm convinced that Ralphie is just fucking dumb. Like, not because, like, he's not educated, but I think there's something wrong with that kid's brain.
Oh my god.
No, seriously. So have you ever watched A Christmas Story?
Yeah, but
So you know how, like, he just randomly just gets dumbfounded over the most simple things. Like, he doesn't respond, he goes blank, like, he shuts down like he's a robot.
Yeah.
He does that repeatedly throughout the movie. So, like, kids, when they want something or when they're caught by surprise, they don't just shut down like he did.
I don't know. I've known some kids to just totally shut down.
I mean, I'm not saying that they don't, but it's just the way he did it and how frequently he did it. And, like, the movie, it's narrating his thought process as to what he was thinking when he was a kid. And you hear those thoughts, you understand why he's doing it, but then you're like, most kids don't react to that way, to what you're thinking, as frequently as you are.
So is that your only qualm?
That was my only qualm with that movie. Like, I feel like there's something wrong with Ralphie.
Should we tell someone? Should we?
Yeah, exactly. Like, why is no one taking this kid to the doctor? Something's clearly wrong with this child. Like, why is no one paying attention to that? So, between that, and I just don't the plot of the movie, he wants his Red Ryder BB gun. Like, I get it. That's fine. I understand. But, like, that's a long-ass movie about this kid that just wants a toy. And even then, the movie doesn't end when he gets the fucking toy.
Yeah, it is a really long movie.
Yeah, so I'm just like, what is the... Like, I sat and I watched this, and I'm like, what was the point of what I witnessed? Like, I don't... I'm just like, what the fuck was... What was the plot of this movie? Because it even, like, most things, when they get the thing, like, they hit the climax, they get what they want, there's, like, a little resolution at the end of it. But the resolution for this movie is almost another part of the movie. So, what?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you that. I feel like it is a movie that doesn't necessarily have a, like, it doesn't have, like, a beginning, middle, and end in terms of the plot. It's just a series of scenes that I feel like people can relate to.
Yeah, which is fine. Like, there's plenty of movies out there like that. Like, if you
like
ever watched
Gummo?
Like Gummo,
I love
Funny
Gummo.
People. Funny People's a good movie, and it's similar to that aspect, but I feel like Funny People just does it better. But like, I was just utterly confused watching this movie. I'm like, I don't understand the appeal. There are so many things, those being the two most glaring things, as to why this movie should not be as reviewed as it is. But other than that, it was a fun time. I relaxed.
I love how I'm like, how was your Christmas? Christmas Story sucks. Like
it does. So, yeah. Other than that, I got a third controller for the for the PlayStation. So that's nice because I always have like a never rotating third person in the house, and I did not have a third controller for anyone who came over. So I'm like, cool. So now I do. That's awesome. So I don't know if that's more of a gift for me or a gift for my guest, but
it's both.
Both, yeah.
A gift you can share is the best kind of gift.
I mean, I don't know. Some gifts, I feel like they should be personal. Obviously, controllers, yes, a good one to share. But yeah, honestly, all in all, though, Christmas not too bad. Not too bad at all. Good times. Excited for New Year's.
I don't know what I'm doing for New Year's yet.
Neither do I. I actually meant to ask you about that.
Do you want to do a thing for New Year's?
Yeah, I want to do a thing for New Year's. And, like, obviously very low-key. Like, just a few people. Very much probably just me, you, Rachel, and Andreas.
Can we, like, get shit-faced?
Rachel's pregnant, so no. I mean, you can if you want to, but...
You don't want to get shit-faced?
I haven't wanted to get shit-faced in a while. Do I want to drink? Yes. Do I want to get shit-faced? Not really.
I'll have to ask Rachel, but it's been a while since I've done belly button shots with her. And obviously she can't participate in the actual drinking, but it would be interesting to do a belly button shot off of a pregnant woman.
So the thing is with that is that you really can't. Because the belly button, it's no longer in, It kind of just evens out with the rest of the belly with the pregnancy. So, like, if you were to pour anything into it, it would just cascade off of her belly.
She has no belly button.
It's not that she doesn't have one. It's just like
there is no belly button anymore.
She has to have one. She's a human being. Like, this isn't Kyle XY.
That's the name of the show.
Yeah. But that would be the problem with that. But do I want to drink?
I feel like that's the only thing that people remember about that show.
Oh, yeah. It was a fucking ABC Family TV show. No one gives a shit about those unless it's Pretty Little Liars. And even then, I feel like people don't care about that anymore. Because it's, dated. And probably not okay for TV nowadays. Like, I never watched the show. But I feel like there's a lot of that show that you could not get away with nowadays. I could be wrong on that. I'm probably wrong on that. But no, drinking, yes. I do want, for some reason, the only thing that I can think of that we could do on New Year's that's socially acceptable is dress in somewhat decent clothes.
Like dress fancy?
I mean, not necessarily fancy, but like, some decent pants and a decent shirt.
You want to get fancy?
Okay, yeah, I want to get fancy.
Let's get fancy.
Let's get fancy.
Let's get fancy, let's get shit-faced, and then let's get unfancy.
Shit-faced. I don't want to get shit... I don't want to have to clean the house more than I already do.
Well, I mean, when I get shit-faced, all I do is dance. Like,
you destroy things when you get shit-faced.
No, I don't. Everybody around me does.
No, fuck that. We were at Tokyo Kitty, and you just about destroyed a robot.
That robot was fine, and you know it.
There was nothing fine. I mean, yeah, the robot was fine because we made sure you didn't abuse it.
Also, the only reason why I got shit-faced there is because I bought shots for literally everybody, and only one person did a shot with me.
Because no one wanted shots.
But I didn't think anybody would say no to free shots.
No, because no one wanted to get shit-faced at a karaoke bar.
I spent nearly $100 on shots for everyone.
You should probably
fucking drink with me except for Rachel.
Most people ask, who wants to take a shot with me, before they just drop dollars on numerous shots.
I did specifically say, I was like, hey, if I got shots, would you guys want to do shots with me? And most people did say yes until they saw the shot.
Did you tell them what kind of shots you were getting them?
I didn't even know. No.
Okay.
I got the thing that sounded the most Japanese, but then it came down and it was like glowing in the dark. Do you remember? It was like a weird glow-in-the-dark milk.
It's like a fucking lava lamp in a glass.
It's really strange.
Oh
Hey,
my God.
I know that this is mildly unprofessional, but whatever.
Oh,
I have a
Jesus.
question.
Yeah?
I have the automatic level control on while recording, and it's still really loud. And when I change the record level, it just switches back to going all the way up.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine?
Yeah, because essentially what it's doing, it's balancing. So what it does is when it feels like you're getting quiet, it gets louder. When it feels like you're being too loud, it'll quiet itself down. And then...
Well, like, even when I speak quietly, like, the little audio wave goes all the way to the edges.
I think it should be
Or does it
okay.
adjust after?
I don't know if it adjusts after, but like since I've used it, I've never had an issue with it being too loud.
Okay.
Like it like when I don't have it on, there's a definitive difference in the recording when I listen to it afterwards, especially in a car. So I give it a shot, see what happens. Listeners, if you have an issue, if Steven blows out your speakers, or if I blow out your speakers, let us know. We'll apologize. Will we pay for it? Probably not.
Yeah, we're not going to replace any speakers. But,
Yeah, like,
you know,
you can
we'll say
turn down
sorry.
the volume knob, but like, we apologize.
Well, all right. We'll just see how this sounds. Hopefully it sounds good.
Yeah, I think it'll sound fine with your fancy new mic.
I do like this mic.
It looks like a decent, like, it looks like a good looking mic.
It's got a purple light, and that's my favorite thing about it.
Well, there you go.
It looks like a little black light on the inside.
Black light. Steven, what have you been playing, buddy?
So I recently made a really bad decision.
Oh? Not what I was expecting when I asked that question.
I'm sorry. I'm just gonna. I have to lay this out there. So, I made a very bad decision recently. I have no regrets, but I know it was a bad decision.
Okay.
I got Sackboy: A Big Adventure. That's not the bad decision.
Yeah,
that's
I remember
probably
we discussed this.
It's one of the top 5 best decisions I've ever made in my life. Actually, is getting Sackboy: A Big Adventure.
Okay.
However, a couple nights ago, I was playing Sackboy: A Big Adventure, and I did not stop.
Jesus Christ. Why?
I did not stop until I beat the game. I played that game until 7 in the morning. But I couldn't. I seriously couldn't
how did your
stop.
eyes feel when you did that?
It hurt when I blinked. Like, you know, like when you close your eyes and it burns?
Yeah.
And then you just kind of have to sit through it until it gets better?
Mm-hmm.
It was like that. And
See,
like,
I can relate to this because I was wondering what your experience was because I did this with Batman Arkham Origins on the PS3 when it came out. I remember I turned it on about 7 o'clock, or no, like 10 o'clock at night because we closed down the store. And I got home and I played through the whole game in its entirety, and it was the next day. I didn't even realize I had done it. But my eyes were in so much pain. So I was just curious as to how yours felt and if it was anything similar to mine.
Why do we do that? Why do we do that to ourselves?
It's just fun. You know, it can be fun. It can be a good time. And you just
Honestly,
you get
like,
sucked in.
If it weren't for responsibilities, like, I would do this all the time, honestly. But, like, it just sucked because it just destroyed my sleep schedule. And it was then, like, it was so... I stayed up so long that it was then inconvenient to go to sleep. Because
Exactly.
by then the
yes.
sun was already back up. And I was just
And you
like,
got shit to
well,
do.
Yeah, so that sucked. I still slept for like 2 hours, but then, you know, I had to do things. So
Right.
But anyways, so most of that game I played in co-op actually. So a friend came over, and she originally wasn't going to come over, but I was talking about Sackboy and how I needed help with the co-op levels.
Yeah.
And she was like, okay, well, I'll come over for a little bit and we can play a few levels. I was like, all right. We started playing this game, and we were just hysterically laughing because it's just so much fun, and so much stupid shit happens. Just because it's a co-op game, so there's that, but also like Sackboy, you can like slap people and punch people, and you can do things that kind of fuck up other people, and it's just fun.
Yeah.
And so it was me, my friend, and my brother. For the most part, it was us three. Andreas chimed in every now and then, actually. He played a couple levels, and our friend Mariah also. But Andreas and Mariah didn't play as much. But me and my friend Jade and my brother, oh my god, we couldn't stop. It was so good, and it was so much fun. We just could not stop. So highly recommend that game. It is so much fucking fun. And to make matters worse, though, so we played through it and we're like, okay, we are going to beat this game. Because once we got to the last world, we're like, we're already here. We might as well.
Right.
So we finished the last world, and mild spoiler alert, you finish the game, credits roll, it's not over. So we were like, well, damn it. But we stopped playing at that point because it was 7 a.m.
That's a good call.
But the credits did roll. So for all intents and purposes, we beat the game. But there's still an entire fucking world in addition to all of the main worlds that we still need to do.
Jeez, Pete.
Yeah. So there's a lot of content and a lot of replayability too, because there's a bunch of stuff to unlock. You go through the levels, and there's different like little mini goals, like for getting all of the collectibles.
Yeah.
And getting different amounts of points. There's like a bronze, silver, and gold level for the points, and you also get rewarded for completing a level without dying.
Yep.
And then all throughout, you're constantly unlocking more levels. There's like secret hidden levels that you can discover in the hub world, and there's a lot of content in this game. I was pleasantly surprised because I didn't like when it was announced. I was thinking that it was just going to be a small kind of budget title, but this is
your typical platformer, very streamlined, very linear.
Yeah, well, this one there's a lot. There's a lot to it. It's really nice.
Yeah, I'm excited to get more into it because I've played. Well, you were there for that, where we played through the first world, really, and that's where I left off. We haven't done more since then, just because I'm playing through it like the entirety with Rachel, and her motivation into playing a game right now is pretty lax, I guess is the word. She's not wanting to do it as much as she was before, so we'll probably hop into that around some time. Or if you want to play, like, now that I've finished my game, for the most part, we can do that, and we can work on getting you some trophies and whatnot, and then
there we go.
Also help you get to that final level.
We can do the online as well. So.
Yep. Sorry, I'm like wrestling Mochi right now because she came through and she's like all over the place, exploring.
Speaking of going all over the place and exploring, so I heard it through the grapevine that you have finished a certain game.
Yes, indeed.
And pray tell, what is that game?
That game is the Sushi Ghost. The Ghost of Tsushima. And Steven, I tell you what, man. This fucking game is so good. It is so good. Kudos to Sucker Punch as a developer. They have a knack for making a good, decently sized open world game feel incredibly fun to traverse and find collectibles and secrets without overwhelming the player.
That's such an important thing.
Yes. it is so satisfying traveling through that world. Even when I use fast travel through most of that game, and
it's so fast,
and it still feels like you're still, anyway, you still have to traverse and do different things in that nature, and it doesn't feel like you're missing out on anything. Most games, when you fast travel, you're like, oh, I don't want to do that because I'm going to miss out on this, and the other. This game does not sacrifice that, and that made me so fucking happy.
Well, because there's a cool little thing where, so for those who aren't familiar, so you can only fast travel to locations that you've visited before. Mm-hmm. But even if you haven't visited a place, even though you can't fast travel to it, you can, I think you swipe up on the touchpad, and then you can make it so that wind kind of, like the wind guides you to the next point of interest. And so even if you don't know where something is, you're still sort of guided there without it like telling you exactly, like literally specifically where to go. So you never feel like you're going to miss anything, or like you're just not seeing everything that the game has to offer. And fast travel doesn't get in the way of that at all. It's really freaking nice.
Yeah, it was really fun. And like, to Steven's point with the navigation, one, I like how they incorporated that into a very subtle way with explaining into Jin. So this is a spoiler cast for those who aren't aware. So like, stop listening now.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to any spoilers yet, but, or maybe, do you want to talk about like gameplay stuff first, and then when we get into the story, we can do the spoiler warning, or do you want to just?
I feel like it kind of intertwines in certain things, you know.
That's fair.
So it's like, we can say it, but I feel like if we slip up while talking about gameplay as to what it relates to it, then it's, you know, we've already broken the trust.
All right. So from this point on, if you are concerned about spoilers for Ghost of Tsushima, stop listening. Get Ghost of Tsushima. Play Ghost of Tsushima. It is on sale right now. Mm-hmm. The holiday sale, right? So it's through New Year's?
Yeah, it's through, I think, January 9th. You got some time there.
All right. Well, there you go. So, so play it, beat it, and then come back and listen to the spoiler cast, and you can hear our thoughts about it. But now we're gonna get into the meat of it.
All right. Yeah. So, what I liked about the navigation, for one, you have the wind blowing in your back, and then you also have a golden bird that flights around and will help you find different secret locations and things like shrines, fox
Did you notice
dens.
that it's not just a golden bird, though?
What?
Sometimes there's there's golden the golden birds that are flying around, but then there's also hummingbirds and lightning bugs. And
well, like for what I'm talking about specifically, the golden bird, like the lightning bug will help you get you to an area, and it vibrates the controller when you're close to an object or a secret thing. The golden bird navigates you to if you're going to a distinct location, so it'll take you directly to a fox den. It'll take you directly to a shrine. It'll take you directly to a pillar of honor or whatever kind of locale. The hummingbirds, sometimes I know, like, you also see like circles of birds when they're hovering over a certain point of interest and things of that nature. But the key thing with the wind and the golden bird is, and early in the game, it's explained that, I can't remember who says it, but they tell Jin that no matter what, do not worry, your father will always be the wind in your back. And then they also explain the golden bird is like, your mother loved those golden birds. She always felt like they would take her to places that she would never have looked at before and appreciate them, or something along those lines. Mm-hmm. So, in essence, this wind that's guiding you is your dad, and then the golden bird, is your mom. And I thought that was a nice little subtle way to incorporate that into the gameplay and explain what they do. It was really cool.
That is really nice.
Mm-hmm. And fucking A, this game is gorgeous.
Yeah, I think it's a shining example of how important art direction is. Mm-hmm. And how much more important art direction is than just graphical fidelity.
Yes,
because like I don't think necessarily that this game is graphically impressive from a texture resolution standpoint, or the high-res models or whatever, but artistic direction, phenomenal. And the shadows, the lighting in this game, they do a phenomenal job with that as well. And the particle effects. You can't talk about Ghost of Tsushima without talking about the fucking particle effects.
So, I'll tell you what, Steven. So I played this game on 3 different consoles. I played it on the PS5, I played it on the PS4 Pro, and I played it on the base model PS4. My favorite experience for this game was the base PS4.
Why?
So it's not the knock on any of the other experiences I had with this game. By all means, it was still great. But so when we played, the PS4 and the PS5 gameplay was pretty similar. There wasn't much of a difference there. The PS5 would lock it at 60 frames per second if you put it in if you had to prioritize frame rate over resolution, which made more sense because resolution-wise it doesn't look too different, like you said. But so when I was playing on the PS5, if you remember, I mentioned it last week when we talked, how I was with the bow and arrow. I was like a fucking mastermind. I've never felt that way in any video game, but I was legitimately good with a bow and arrow. I was just taking shots, this, that, and the other. I was killing people on accident in a very high and efficient way, and I'm like, this shouldn't be happening, but it is. But my sword play sucked. Like, I fucking could not. I would miss parries. I would dodge at the wrong time, this, that, and the other. And when I transferred over to the PS4 and I would play in the bedroom, the game's frame rate drops to 30 frames per second. And it is, you see, I've never witnessed it in a video game where I've seen a difference in frame rate. So I'm like, oh, that's noticeable. In this game, it is definitely noticeable, but not in a bad way. If anything, it adds to how visceral the gameplay is, because everything's kind of choppy in a way. And it adds a certain savagery to when you're taking down and cutting down Mongols. And with that, while it became harder for me to shoot the bow and arrow, I was able to read frames without really thinking about it and dodge and parry at pivotal times when it mattered most, almost expertly. So I was like, this game just feels better when it's at a lower quality frame rate, because it just adds that old Western Samurai just choppiness of just brutality. The biggest thing for me was how visceral it felt. Like, it felt brutal watching how this game looked on a PS4. Interesting. Yeah, because like it was on the PS5 and the PS4 Pro, it's extremely smooth. Like, the fidelity and the frames are there. It just smooths right in. But that makes it hard to really read combat-wise because it's very flowy. Whereas how much it's broken up on the base PS4, it's easy to read. Like, oh, okay, dodge here, parry there. I know he's going to do this. That was so much easier for me.
So I remember when you first started playing, you did say that you weren't really a fan of the combat, and at that point you hadn't gotten to the part where you sort of unlock I can't remember what it's called, but where you go into like beast mode basically and just fucking annihilate everyone. So I feel like the combat really opens up, like it all of your combat options are available at that point. Yeah. I mean, provided that you level it all up and everything. So after reaching that and, exploring all of the different combat upgrades and things like that, now how do you feel about the combat?
So my gripe still stands. While you're right, you do feel a good sense of progression as you improve throughout the game, and that does help smooth things to a point. It still needs a fucking lock on, especially when you're fighting, because there's moments in the game, especially later game, where you have multiple enemies around you, and depending on the direction you're facing, because that's how you aim, and you see an enemy coming behind you, and that's where your focus needs to be. It, like, you could have someone in front of you, because like you're looking just slightly to the left, you hit the other guy, or you get totally turned around after you do like a parry, and you leave your back wide open for that same person to hit you in the back because you're still taking that time to turn around. Whereas if you had a lock on or like a strafing kind of deal, that would be much easier to do and manage and make sense, especially because there's times in the game where you very much have to read what your opponents are doing to pay attention, so you don't waste your resolve and you don't take a bunch of needless hits. Or if you're trying to get your ghost stance meter and you try to get multiple kills in a row without being touched to really save your ass. That's hard to do when you have multiple people attacking you all at once, and you're trying to focus on one guy, and if you were to hit that one guy, you can flow easily and you're taking out the rest, but you can't because you all of a sudden you just happen to be facing the wrong direction at the wrong time, or you just happen to tilt the left stick ever so lightly. So I think that still needs to be there.
So aside from the lock-on, though, how do you
aside
feel?
from the lock-on, it's pretty solid. I think gameplay-wise, especially with combat, it's a very solid game. It's fun. It's the biggest gripe I think I'd had outside of lock-on is navigating your weapons, because there are a lot, and it's hard to.
I think we mentioned, or I think I mentioned in the last episode that it's kind of like Metal Gear Solid, like how you have to like hold something down and then switch to the thing, and it's just,
and even
it's
then
like there's hotkeys.
Yeah, you have to do
menus.
it, and then you have to use the other side of the controller to navigate your quick fire, whereas the other ones are like you're aiming, and it's like, God, that is a lot. So I found myself accidentally using certain weapons just because I thought, oh shit, I'd press it because I would get confused, utterly, like absolutely confused. I'm like, fuck, what did I have set? Oh, my sword's on fire. I thought I was throwing a kunai, but I guess this is fine. Like it's like shit, and you waste those resources. Luckily, resources are abundance. Like I never had to once buy extra ammo or anything because it's fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
I think one thing that really got me was the supplies, like trying to upgrade my stuff. That was hard because everything cost supplies. Like everything used them. And it was weird because it was, you bought supplies from the merchants using supplies. But to sell what you were selling for supplies, you needed all of it to help build your other stuff up. So it made no sense for you to sell anything really throughout most of that game, if at all. I think I only sold once, and that's because I had a like 500 plus bamboo, and I'm like, bamboo's overabundance here.
That's another thing. Like I feel like I would have liked it if there was more variety in the type of supplies.
Yeah,
like specific to different kinds of upgrades, which they sort of did, but I just feel like it would have been easier to be able to specifically target like a specific kind of upgrade and then find that item. But there's only like 3 or 4 different supply types, I guess, that I can think of.
Yeah, you had different kinds of steel, wood, and like leather, and
there's like cloth or something.
Yeah, and it was weird because like you literally like you have a material called just supplies, but the supplies were used to upgrade things as well as you had to find them. So it's hard to manage that because other things get totally sacrificed because like, oh, this one thing only needs 200 supplies. I've got 500 and I can upgrade this other thing, but it costs 600. On top of I have to use supplies to buy everything else. And it's like it would make more sense if supplies was just currency, but you used solely iron or steel to upgrade your sword, not iron, steel, and supplies, because it just made it hard, or at least it just didn't make any sense. It just seemed like a waste because you get so much in abundance of other like your steel, your leather, your iron, all this stuff. You have plenty of that, but you'd never have enough supplies. And
I
it's
will
never
say
like,
though, I did enjoy that. I felt like after every mission, there was a thing that I could either upgrade or a thing that I could craft or an item that I could buy. There was always like something, and even if there wasn't anything I could upgrade or craft, there would be like a gift at the altar, like because when you go to the different shrines or whatever, or not shrines, just the towns, what are they called?
I'm trying to figure out because there are shrines and there are towns.
Well, the gift altars are in the little towns.
Yeah.
Are they just called towns?
Yeah, like settlements or...
Settlements, there we go.
There's settlements, there's, what's it called? Sanctuaries. They're different things, but they all serve the same purpose.
Okay. Sorry, I'm a little bit more removed from this than you are. But yeah, it was nice that there was always something, and even when I couldn't upgrade my character or, complete more of the little level up tree or whatever, I could like there's little golden emblems that show up on the map, and they show you a place where you can upgrade something, or if there's a gift at a place, the little towns people will, as a thank you for helping them out, they'll give you a little gift at the altar. And I think that's kind of nice. Like it's a neat little thing. I also I really enjoyed, specifically speaking of the combat, I really like how the game doesn't punish you for not sticking to one thing. Like, that's one thing that I was a little bit worried about when the game was announced, where it's like, oh, are you going to be the samurai or are you going to be the ghost? Which path are you going to take? And I was afraid that it was going to be a very binary, like good or evil, and it would require like 2 playthroughs and things like that. But no, you can. I really liked that I could
play
basically,
how you want.
yeah, I could play how I wanted, and doing one thing never kept me from being able to use another power or being able to upgrade some other branch. Like nothing, I was never locked out of anything. So I really enjoyed that, because I'm a little bit of a completionist when it comes to these kinds of games, and I really like being able to do everything in one go, and this game makes it very easy for you to be able to upgrade everything. You can do all the side quests, there's nothing that's missable, and it communicates all of that pretty well, I think. So I was never overwhelmed, I was never stressed out, and I never felt like I couldn't do something, or I had to only focus on a specific kind of way of playing because I wanted to progress in a certain way. So that was really nice. I had a lot of choice in that regard, and I really appreciated that when it came to the way that they designed the combat and the upgrades and everything.
Yeah. So for me, especially for a developer like Sucker Punch, who has a history with morality systems after Infamous, I expected more out of it, because they played it up so much in like the dev talks and this, that, and the other. Like, oh, you had to, like, you have different ways you can play. Do you want to play as the Ghost of the Samurai, like you said? So I thought, like, oh, okay, that's going to be a big factor, and it wasn't really. You just played the game how you wanted to do it. And
see, I think I disagree a little bit there, because I think yes, it wasn't as much of a factor when it came to the gameplay mechanics, specifically because you were never locked out of anything. Like, if you choose one path, you can still always choose another path, whether you're doing Ghost or Samurai, which I thought was cool, because it's kind of like that's how it would be. Like, at any point you can decide to approach a situation differently.
Well, yeah, but even that's more gameplay. So, yeah, you could approach things as the Ghost, right? Be stealthy and stab from the back, things of that nature. Use your poison darts, use your kunais, this thing and the other. Or you can just straight up charge into a settlement and have a standoff with 5 or 6 different Mongols.
The standoffs are so cool.
They are so cool. But even then, at that point, it doesn't change any outcome. It doesn't change how the townspeople look at you. Like, that's all written into the game. No matter what you do, you could have standoffs throughout the entirety of the game. You're still the Ghost. You're still Jin Sakai. There's no real identity portion of the game there, which I was surprised they didn't have, again, how they talked about it. And I think I kind of miss it. So you're right, I don't like the idea of being locked out of certain things because I play a certain way. I don't think I should be locked out of those things. But would it be cool to see how the world changes or how the people view me based off of how I did something? Like,
well, I think actually
that would be cool.
And if I remember correctly, I read an article that described that there are subtle changes in the world based on certain things.
There are changes in the world, but the only ones I noticed were when you cleared a portion of the map. So, like, significantly, the second port, like Yarikawa.
Oh, the Mongol presence. Yeah.
Yeah. It's obvious, it gets drab and strewy, but that's the only real difference I saw throughout the entirety of the game. People didn't talk to me
Yeah, I think that's what was actually mentioned in the article. I think you're right. But, I mean, still, so while it didn't... While the Ghost versus Samurai thing didn't really play into the gameplay as much as like being a binary thing. I think that struggle was represented extremely well in the story.
God.
Jin having to kind of wrestle with this idea of tradition versus progress out of necessity in a lot of cases. I thought that was extremely well done, and the tension between Jin and there's this internal struggle, but then there's also an external struggle that is between him and his sort of father figure, whose name escapes me because I'm a terrible person, and also because I haven't played this game in a while.
And his name is Lord Shimura.
Okay, Shimura. That was so well done, and the way that it evolved over the course of the game, it impacted me so much more than I could have ever guessed that it would.
It kind of just hits you all at once. You don't realize how much you've witnessed and how drastic of a change it is until the end. You're like, oh fuck, oh my god.
Yeah, and like what blows me away, so like I feel like throughout the entire game you have multiple characters who are they firmly believe what they believe, and many of them are more in line belief wise with the idea of honor and the samurai way, so to speak. But throughout the story, gradually, one by one, you witness breaking points for people.
Oh yeah.
Like, how far do things have to go before they decide, okay, the gloves are off, now let's give them a taste of their own medicine, that kind of thing.
And then at the end, they come through like an existential crisis, much like Jin has, in a way, where you're like, where do I go from here? I can't go back to how I was. I've done these things. Like, I've either slaughtered people, I've hunted people down, or I've abused someone. It was crazy.
Yeah, and like I was playing this game right off of playing Last of Us Part 2. And I won't get into spoilers for Last of Us Part 2, but I think it goes without saying that Last of Us Part 2 is a very brutal game with dire circumstances. And I went into Ghost of Tsushima kind of thinking that it was going to be the antithesis of The Last of Us Part 2, where I felt like Last of Us Part 2 was kind of like, you have already gone far, and now it's kind of like you have to reel yourself back. But with Ghost of Tsushima, I felt almost like it was kind of pushing you to see, like to basically unlock your rage, I suppose. And I didn't know that it was going to keep pushing, and it just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And one thing that I really like is early on in the game, you witness Lady... The person who's avenging her family who was murdered.
Lady Masako. Dude, she's Lady fucking nuts.
So, your first introduction to her, she's just like, I'm going to kill the people who murdered my family. And she, like, in one of her first scenes, she just brutally kills someone and blood goes everywhere. And she's just in a fit of rage, and she just keeps going. And she doesn't sleep, she doesn't eat. She literally, like, she just stays awake, and she's like, there's no time for anything, we have to kill these people. Like, she is on a mission, and it is a mission
almost
for
killed
murder.
A fucking monk. And I'm like, holy
seriously?
Shit. Like, you end up having to fight her because she's like, if you're in my way, I'm just gonna fucking kill you.
Exactly.
Like, okay, I didn't realize we were gonna get this far.
But when you're first introduced to her, like, I think pretty much everybody had the reaction of, oh my god, this woman is insane.
Yes.
Like, even though we know that her family was murdered, because her reaction is so intense and so visceral, we're just like, she's lost it. She's beyond help.
There's literally a point where you're going into a Mongol camp, and there's a discussion as to how, okay, we gotta be quiet about this. We've got to be sane. Make sure we do this smart. And she's like, agreed. And then 5 seconds in, you just hear like, fight me, face me, come for your death. I'm like, holy shit, lady. Like, what happened to that whole conversation we just had?
Yeah, because she doesn't give a fuck. She's got nothing to live for other than to murder these people. Mm-hmm. But what's crazy to me is I thought she was insane. I thought that she had gone too far. And I thought she was beyond help. And throughout the course of the game, I started to understand how she felt. Mm-hmm. And by the end of it, I was her. I was like, all right, let's fucking kill them. And like whenever possible, I would activate the fucking ghost stance, and I would slice people's heads off, and I'd be like, this is what you fucking deserve. And and that's an interesting, like, that evolution happens throughout the entire game. And I feel like really the point where I realized that this game wasn't going to, I guess, like, wasn't going to pull back any punches, I guess, was, well, there were two that come to mind. When I'm so mad at myself for not remembering the names, but it's been a little bit since I played this. But the brother guy who gives you the grappling ability.
Oh, Taka. Yeah.
There you go. Taka. When Taka dies horribly right in front of you because he's trying to help you.
But he's also a fucking idiot. He annoyed me, not gonna lie.
Well, yeah, it was stupid, but I feel like he sort of represented innocence, I guess.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so when he was killed, I feel like that was the real turning point in the game, where from that point on, it was just brutal, consistently. And so that was really interesting. But the point when I really realized that they weren't going to hold back any punches was when Jin's childhood friend,
Ryuzo.
Ryuzo. Okay. When he sort of joined the evil guys, the Mongols, but then to prove his loyalty, he had to kill his own people, basically, and like set them on fire.
Yeah.
First of all, that performance, the voice acting in this game, and the mocap, the facial capture, oh my god. I think it's top notch. I wish more people would talk about the performances in this game. I don't understand. Some of the reviews were kind of knocking it and saying that the performances were stilted or unemotional, but I think pretty much anyone in the main cast was phenomenal.
I feel like there were some moments where it's like, this seems kind of phoned in, and unfortunately, a bulk of this game isn't the main cast. You know what I mean? Like, you have those moments, but like the way I played, at least, I did all the side stuff first as much as I could before the game would. There's only one moment where it was obviously forcing me, like, no, you need to complete a story mission before you proceed this far into the island. Mm-hmm. You have to. And it was early on to the second portion of the island. But other than that, all the side stuff, all of those performances were very much like, that's it. Okay, cool. Standard fare. Got it. And and then with the main story, because there's not that many cutscenes for the main story itself, while most of the performances were very much top notch, some were just like, okay, and I think for me that came more from the mocap, because some of the emotions in the face, sometimes you didn't see much, or the lip syncing wasn't wrong, was like just a smidge off. And I noticed that more in the PS4 than I did the PS5.
So I do think a lot of the in-game animation for the character models and those cutscenes were very strange and stilted. But I don't think the performances were bad.
No, the performances themselves were they were top notch.
And but I feel like a lot of times the actors get a little bit of a bad rap because of the way that the things are handled. I feel the same way about Days Gone, actually. A lot of people shat on Days Gone, and they said that the story was bad. And I'm just like, I think the story is phenomenal, the plot and the acting amazing, but the presentation wasn't up to snuff. And I think that
presentation kind of that game was ass.
Made people feel a certain way, like they were making the association with the story, when really it was more about in Days Gone, I think it was because of the awkward transitions.
Mm-hmm. That was the biggest point for me, at least.
But with Ghost of Tsushima, I feel like it's the same thing, where for the most part the presentation in this game is top notch, but then when you get to certain like in-game cutscenes, not the pre-rendered cutscenes or whatever, but the in-game cutscenes, it's weird because the camera just kind of like has two positions that it just switches between, and the characters just barely animate. Yep. And they just kind of stand there and stare at you with these dead eyes and just deliver the lines. But if you close your eyes and listen, it's really good, I promise. But no, specifically in that scene where he is made to basically burn his friends, that was difficult for me to watch, and that performance, there was so much, like, you could just feel everything that was happening inside of him, where he was like, I have to do this, but I really, really don't want to. And that was really intense for me. And that was when I was like, okay, this game is going to end up taking me places that I'm uncomfortable with. And boy, did it deliver on that front.
That game's, the brutality you see in that game, with whether it be a field of dead bodies that are charred and on spikes, or you're talking to a mob like group of people, and their leader tells you, you're going to do this thing for me, and your reason is why, and they say, or you can have like the guy's head that's on a pike out back, and then it transitions to the title of the mission, and you legitimately see this fucking man's severed head on a spike with flies circling it. And I'm like, oh okay, she's not wrong here. She'll actually do it.
You see a group of peaceful monks decide to become basically a small military squadron.
Yeah.
Like that, those are the kinds of things that are happening in this. And I think it's interesting that the game takes the time to sort of let you see the process of people getting there. And yes, with Lady Masako, they just kind of drop you in. But with other characters, you see that evolution. And with Jin Sakai, you see that evolution. You're part of that. And I think they did a phenomenal job with it, and it really all comes to fruition, I think, with the way that they chose to conclude the game, with the singular choice, which I really struggled with.
So did I. I had a hard time. I got to that point, I'm like, oh fuck. I figured this was going to be the thing that happened. So you're given a choice at the end.
See, I honestly didn't think this was gonna happen.
I figured that was gonna happen. I did not think it would be a choice left to the player. I did not think it was gonna be a choice left to the player. So at the end of the game, Jin is essentially branded a traitor because he's broken the code of the samurai, and his uncle Ejito, working directly under the shogun, he's very honor bound. He has to follow these codes. And so after Jin kills Khotun Khan, he rides with his uncle, and it's like the last bonding moment because his uncle had planned on adopting him as father and son. So his uncle, heartbroken by all of this and what's happened, has also now been ordered by the shogun to kill Jin. And so you go to your family cemetery. You've learned that you've lost your estate. All of it's gone. And you fight your uncle in a duel. You beat your uncle, and you are left to either kill him as his final dying wish because he wants to die with honor and die as a warrior, or you can continue to do what you've done and break tradition, defy this honor-bound code, and do it as a slave, and do what you feel is right, and that is to leave your family alive because he's your only family. And that was hard, because at the end of the day, like, yes, I am no longer following the code of the samurai. I'm doing what I felt is right, and I don't feel like I should kill this man because of some code. But at the same time, this man is my father figure. He's raised me since I was a child, and he is asking me to grant him this last wish. And he's asking that I kill him as a samurai. And I feel this duty to give him that wish.
There's also an added layer to it as well, because there's like the idea of peace, which is really what you're after in this game for everyone, is you just want peace. And what's so gut-wrenching about this final choice is if you kill him, then that's peace for him, but that is torment for Jin.
In more ways than one. Like, the emotional torment of you just killed your father figure, but also the fact that you're killing a Jito. So at that point, you become an enemy of the fucking country. So all of Japan is after you. More so than they already were.
Well, the problem still, though, is even if you choose not to kill him, your uncle still has to
hunt you down,
track you down. So all of a sudden you're making his entire life devotion about hunting the one person that he cares most about. And so it then transfers the torment over to him instead of Jin. So it's like the whole thing is just a fucking disaster, and it's rough too, because I really did not expect it to hit me this hard, but just the amount of love between them, it's like a strained love, and it reminded me a lot of my own family, where I very often butt heads with my family, specifically when it comes to beliefs, like political beliefs or religious beliefs, and it's so hard because you feel like you just desperately want to get it through their fucking thick skulls that things don't have to be a certain way. But sometimes people are just so dead set on a specific way of thinking, but there's nothing you can do. And so at the end of Ghost of Tsushima, where you're kind of literally face to face with that dilemma, where it's just two people who care about each other and love each other, but they have vastly different worldviews or ideas on how to solve this problem that's very important to them. When they're faced with that, and when like the pinnacle of either thing would be the end of the other, just having to grapple that, oh my god, it really hit home for me, and it really, to me, it was so powerful because it was almost emblematic of kind of the divisiveness that's happening in the world. And I very much so took it in that way, and I very much so thought about my own family and, you know, different people in my life that I've looked up to despite strongly disagreeing with. And yeah, it was really difficult, but as much as I hated the decision that I made, I have some kind of peace with the decision that I made.
What decision did you make, Steven?
I killed him.
Okay.
I killed my uncle. Because otherwise he would just hate everything. Like, it was the only... To me, it was the only thing that could bring him peace. And because that's what I wanted for him, I felt like I had to. Because... it, as weird as it might sound, I feel like it was the only way that I could convey to him that I loved him and respected him. Because doing anything else, I feel like, would be a betrayal to him. Like, he would read it as a betrayal.
Yes.
And I just cared too much about him, so I had to kill him, which sounds really weird to say.
No, but you're not wrong. Like, exactly what we talked about. It's like you have these two choices, and there's a multitude of reasons as to why you should go with one or the other. So I let the uncle live. And my mindset behind that was, you know what? This whole journey has been me, especially the relationship with my uncle, explaining that sometimes you have to break honor. You have to break this code. You can't be a slave to it. You need to change. Things have to change. We have faced an enemy that forced our hand in this. If we did not do these necessary but questionable things, we would not have survived, and people would have died. Could we have won? Maybe. Would thousands more have died? Yes. In order for you to understand that things can be different, and you do not have to do these things that you were saying you have to do because of some code that you blindly follow, I'm going to let you live. You've already said I don't have honor, and you're right. I did things as the Ghost. I will continue to do things as the Ghost. And as the Ghost, I don't think that either of us have to kill each other to move forward.
See, I like the message of that, but
yeah,
I really don't think it would get through to him.
And you're not wrong.
That's the problem.
Yeah, and that's totally fine. And that's something I thought about too. I'm like, I don't know if it's going to resonate. He may still, like, if anything, hate me more. And at this point, there is no sadness when him killing me. He's like, no, I'm going to fucking kill you. You just burnt every fucking bridge you had. But I took that risk. And it solidifies it at the end of the game, like the little epilogue kind of deal when you're in your new camp, that it's like, you talk to Yuna and she, you're just kind of discussing things, and your uncle hasn't made a move. Like, the Shogun, yeah, he wants you dead, but your uncle is not the one. He has not made any preparations or anything like that. He's very much just left you alone.
Well, I think they're also saving that for a sequel.
Oh, definitively, that's for sure.
But, see, that's another thing that's kind of interesting, is I wonder how they're going to handle that in a sequel, because it seems like that relationship is so integral to the story. But because the outcome is so different...
I think it'll be very much what they did with Infamous.
Where one is canon?
Yeah, where one is canon, the other one was like whatever. So if you remember Infamous 2 especially, the developer Sucker Punch was very much hoping that more people... They went with who completed what ending the most. They were hoping that more people went with the evil ending, which led to Cole staying alive, and essentially... only people that lived were conduits. That was the ending they were hoping people played the most and went with and had more favor towards. But it wasn't. People went with the good ending, where all the conduits essentially die, and so does Cole. So I think that'll be the same instance here, where it'll be based off of what choice was made the most with players. And whatever choice was made the most that way will determine the actual ending that will lead into 2.
Have you seen the other ending?
Where he kills the uncle?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Okay. because I've seen both endings, and I will say, I feel like the killing the uncle ending is so much more impactful.
Oh, I imagine so. I imagine the emotion in that scene is well more than this. Because when you leave him alive, you just tell him, I'm doing this because I'm not following some dumb code.
Yeah, you basically just like, you're like, nope, and then you walk away. You put on your mask, and then you just turn around and leave.
You're like, I will stay the ghost. I will do what I must. I'm not killing you because you're my family.
And then I think doesn't the uncle like yell and tell you to do it or something?
No, he just stands there in silence and he cries. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's somber and it's heartbreaking because the uncle's heart is broken, but that's it. I can only imagine the emotion that comes with Jin legitimately killing his uncle.
It was rough because
I could only imagine that's more gut-wrenching.
So even though you haven't watched it yet, I recommend that you do, just because I mean,
will.
If you're a glutton for punishment and you want to fucking cry like a baby.
I mean, I just want to know, but yeah, that too, I guess.
But oh my god. Jin kneels down and they make like eye contact, and you can just see the sadness in both of their eyes. Mm-hmm. And basically like right before he does it, his uncle I don't know the exact words, but he calls him his son, and
yeah,
that's what fucking did it for me. When he said, when basically he affirmed that he has a deep respect for him, and that he thinks that he raised this wonderful person, and when he calls him his son with a sense of pride, I lost it. I started weeping, and then he just fucking does it, and he like tries to keep himself together for his uncle's last moments alive, and then he just lets out this like guttural scream, and oh my god, I just can't. It's rough. I wanted to watch the other ending as well. So actually the next day after I beat the game, I was at work and I was watching a video that had both of the endings. Mm-hmm. And the first one in the video was the one where he kills him, and I was weeping at work again. I had to like collect myself on the back. Oh my god, it was so rough. But it really surprised me how emotionally impactful this game was for me. Because, I mean, yes, I get emotional with a lot of games, but especially coming off of The Last of Us Part 2, which I thought was going to be the thing that emotionally resonated with me more. Mm-hmm. Ghost of Tsushima ended up speaking to me more on a personal level. And I think that's just really interesting. I think it's a testament to how well they did with showing how these characters develop and progress through the game, and no pun intended, sort of sucker punching you.
God damn it!
With the
there was a pun intended in that, bastard.
With the finale, because like I think they did a good job of like planting the seeds without making it too in your face, if that makes sense. Like, they're not beating you over the head with these things, but then once they want you to understand something, that's when they're like, all right, now we're gonna just go all in.
Yeah. No, but I completely agree with that.
Just a phenomenal game.
So one thing I do wish they had more of in this game, and that was fucking Colton Khan. I can't remember how to pronounce his name. He, as a villain, was fucking stone cold throughout the entirety of it.
That's true.
And he was smart. Like, as evil as a motherfucker as he was smart. and every scene he was in, he's the one that stole that fucking scene. Like, the scene where fucking Ryozo is burning the villagers to get them to open the fucking gate.
Mm-hmm.
Colton doesn't say a fucking word, and he steals that scene.
See, I don't know. I actually kind of disagree.
He just looks at Ryuzo and he goes, and he's like, "What are you doing? You know what you need to do? Do it. Why aren't you doing it?" Like, and it's just ice cold. Like, I mean, definitely Ryuzo's performance is, he is definitely the top performer in that entire scene for sure. But it's Colton Kahn's reaction, or lack thereof, that sells it. Because he's looking at you like, I don't know why this is such a problem for you. If you want to do this, you know what you've got to do. You signed on for this, get it done.
See, I think that's a good point, but I also think that out of all of the characters in this game, the one that I think is least compelling is Colton Kahn.
Well, that's what I mean. There's not much to him. I wish there was, with how much of it you get out of him, for how little you know about him. He should have had more.
I think they did it on purpose, though, because if you think about it, because of what the story that they're trying to tell, it's not a story about
a singular.
Oh, there's this evil man doing an evil thing. It's a story about the internal struggles with the people who are forced to react to it. It's that, and so them focusing on that aspect of the story, because the story of evil villain does evil thing because they're evil, that's been done to death. But it's not as often, at least in video games, where they sort of explore the struggle that comes with having to figure out how to solve this problem in a way that is not a defamation of character, so to speak, not stooping down to their level. I think they kind of made him bland and sort of like a flat character, specifically because of that. Because I don't think they wanted to allow people to have any opportunity to relate to or even personify him. Mm-hmm. Because the story, the compelling story, was not with him. It needed him in order to exist, because they needed a Hitler for this world, basically.
They needed an antagonist, for sure.
But the story is not with him, and that's why, like, before I finished the game, I read online that there was a choice at the end of the game. It was not spoiled what the choice was, but I heard that there was a choice at the end. Mm-hmm. And when I got to the final boss fight, I thought the choice was going to be to kill him, to kill Colton Kahn, or to let him live. And when I got to that point, and then I killed him, and that whole boss fight was just kind of like, eh. And then there wasn't really much fanfare or anything. I was just like, okay. But, like, right at the end, there was a part where you can, like, do the finishing blow. And I just stood there waiting for the prompt to come up saying, okay, do it or don't do it. And I literally just waited to see if it was a choice or not. And, of course, turns out it wasn't a choice. You just kill him, and then the game goes on. And I was like, oh, well then what is it? What's the big choice? And then when I got there, I was like, it all makes sense. Like,
see, for me, I knew that the game was not going to end with the Khan dying. Like, I knew that. Because he is not the overall point. I knew it was going to come down to Jin and his uncle. How? I had no idea. Was it to be a choice? No fucking clue. I didn't expect it to be, at least.
I guess I just, and this is probably shitty, but I guess I just didn't expect Sucker Punch to do that, because I never thought of Sucker Punch as being a studio that told compelling stories with compelling characters. And not to shit on their previous games, but I was never emotionally moved by any Infamous game. I was never, like Sly Cooper never,
Right.
never really had anything of weight or consequence to me. Like, there were still nice moments, and they were still interesting stories, and they were still fun stories, but nothing ever hit hard for me. And with Infamous Second Son, I felt like they had a huge opportunity to really hit things hard. Like, I honestly, I still stand by the idea that game is an allegory for marginalized people, and, discrimination, things like that. Much like X-Men. Like, it's very much in that same vein, but they did not, they did not directly grasp that in the story. They would just, like, kind of lightly nod to the idea, but then that was it. They just didn't touch it. It was, all right, there's an evil person doing evil things, kill the evil person, boom, that's the end. Are you good? Are you bad? Boom. That's it. They never really, like, drove that home. So when I was playing Ghost of Tsushima, I was not expecting them to... I was expecting more of the same, where I was like, this is going to be a fun game, this is going to be an interesting world with fun mechanics, this is going to be well made, but I was not expecting it to be as narratively competent, I guess. And that's why I felt like I was sucker punched, because it was unexpected to me. I honestly thought that they were going to narratively drop the ball, but I was consistently impressed with every act and every chapter up until the conclusion, and I was blown away. So that's kind of why I was not expecting the finale to be what it was. I was expecting it to be kind of how I felt with Infamous Second Son, where I was like, oh, okay, that's it.
No, I get that completely. For one, I like to go back to the quote and con thing. I think what you said about him, like, not being a focal point, by all means, totally true. But for me, because of the small amount we did see him and what I enjoyed so much about that, I wish we had more of him. You know, there's definitely some complexity there, because his entire angle, really, for what he's doing, it's in the records as a collectible in the game, and the conversations this random person that works with him is having. And he's essentially, his biggest thing is that he doesn't want to live in his cousin's shadow. He doesn't want to live in Genghis Khan's shadow. He wants to surpass him. Like, he eventually wants to kill Genghis Khan and take over as head Khan and run the entire Mongol Empire. So I'm like, oh, fuck. But, like, that's never touched on. Mm-hmm. Like, and it's the same reason why he relates so much to Jin. Like, what you're doing is what I want to do. I don't want to kill these people, but you're forcing my hand because I want to do this thing. You don't see that. So I wish we saw more depth to that character, by all means. Do I understand why there isn't? Oh, completely, totally. Does that change my mind? No. I think it'd still be pretty fucking cool to see more of him, especially with the performances he gave.
Yeah, I mean, I still really appreciate the laser focus that they had. I feel like a big reason why it was as impactful as it was is because they were actually dedicated to the theme that this game was trying to get across. Yeah,
and that was going to be my next point there, is I think a reason why this game does so well, where Sucker Punch has not had a history of telling a extremely poignant and focused story that just sells all the way through, is because other games, like Sly Cooper, a big focus for that was the gadgets and the gameplay. It was never necessarily about the story. It was about, like, it's fun being this cool, super cool thief that just is super smooth the whole way through, and you can do things with such style. Whereas Infamous games very much focused on these bombastic powers and the choices you make, really influencing how those powers evolve. Not necessarily about the story itself, but at the end of the day, the root of it all was your abilities and your powers. This game, while bigger in scale, shrinks that down. It's not about your powers or your abilities. It's not about necessarily your combat or how you do things. It's about a man who is faced with an extremely, extremely daunting task and having to choose if he needs to forego everything he's taught so he can adapt and evolve to save his people, or accepting the code he has been trained to do so dutifully and hoping those things go forward.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, another thing that I think kind of shows that was more of their focus was in a lot of their other games, because the gameplay kind of took center stage. I feel like at every moment there was action in their previous games. Like at every moment there was something going on, or there was always movement. But with this game, they made it a point to encourage the player to stop and to reflect and to think about what they're doing and why. And literally there are points in the game where you just sit and reflect. Like that's what they're called, is reflection, whatever, the hot springs. You literally
hot springs or the haikus.
You choose what you reflect on, and then the haikus, you're kind of processing these emotions. And I think that's another thing that made it so powerful to me as well, is that it showed sort of more to the conflict than just a binary response. It showed like just the fact that they took the time to show the process of processing these feelings and processing these emotions, and to sort of express the anxieties of the main character in the quiet moments, and to have the character question, is this right? Am I doing this the right way? And even just at moments just being like, hey, I really appreciate this person. That was another kind of nice thing. You can just reflect on a person, and sometimes he's just like, oh, well, I love this person. And that's just nice. Like, it's really nice that they basically press pause on the action. They're like, okay, that's not what this needs to be about right now. This is fine. Yeah. And for somebody for a developer that has kind of built their reputation on being more action-centered, even though this game was even marketed as a more action-forward game, which I understand, mostly because that's what sells. But really, I think that 50% of this game is the action and the combat, and 50% of it is just the quiet moments and the meditation of it all, and the environment sort of helping with the story and the storytelling itself and the story that they are telling. I think it's more split down the middle, 50-50, than it is, gameplay over story and atmosphere, or the other way around. Yeah. And that was just really cool to experience. And honestly, it put Sucker Punch on another level for me. Like, they weren't in my top 5 developers personally, but I think now they might be. Like, now I have a lot more faith in what they're doing.
No, yeah, for sure. I mean, something to kind of go off of what you were saying with the atmosphere of the game and the stillness, while this was an action-oriented scene, probably one of the most powerful moments in the game for me, and I don't even know if this was on purpose or just a glitch in the game, honestly. It is one of the first scenes you fight with Ryuzo, not against him, and you're fighting Mongols, or bandits, or one or the other, and the music stops, and it's just the combat. That was... I don't know why that felt so different, and I'm like, wow, you know what, honestly, I could get away and feel just fine if I turned off the music in this game, especially during combat, because it just sells the weight of everything you're doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for me, Sucker Punch by no means has ever been one of my top or my favorite developers, really. Just because, like, while I love the Infamous games, and I had some affection towards Sly Cooper, the games never did anything over the top. They never hit this top tier mark. Like, yes, this is a pinnacle of what this type of game should be. They never did that for me. Until now, with storytelling, I haven't played a game that got me this emotionally moved on a decision or just engagement in story, and I don't know how long.
Yeah, I think PlayStation has... I think PlayStation's always had a very impactful kind of deck of cards, I guess, that they can play when it comes to their first party developers. And I never thought that I would consider Sucker Punch to be like top tier in the industry among them, I suppose, but I think now I understand. Like, now I get it.
Yeah, I feel like Sucker Punch has always been... I think PlayStation's always held them in high regard because of gameplay, and I don't want to say innovation, but finding a unique gimmick of some sort and making it a focus. So, like, the biggest being the morality system in Infamous. I feel like that was for a while, was the standard people had, because after Infamous 1, I can't remember how many games came out with, like, choose how you play, do this, that, and the other, you're going to be good or evil, blah, 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 blah. I feel like we just saw a slew of games try to do that immediately after Infamous. While Infamous by no means was a perfect game, it did that feature well, to an extent. Mm-hmm. Sly Cooper, while I don't think Sly Cooper's ever heralded as one of the greatest of anything it did, it was still a top-tier game when it came to platforming in general. And I think that's always been Sucker Punch's thing. They've always been kind of a palate cleanser in a way for gamers. Like, oh, hey, let's give them this game. Like, there's nothing too in-depth with this. There's no secret messages. There's no subliminal thing we want to get across. This is just a fun and enjoyable game for people to play. And I think now, after I have a feeling they've got Infamous on pause. They definitely don't have any more Sly Cooper themselves coming down the road. They were like, let's do something we haven't done before and take what we've learned from other Sony first-party studios and do the best we can. Because this was their first game since Infamous First Light, which came out, I think, a year after Infamous Second Son.
Yeah.
So
it's basically a launch game.
Yeah, it was almost 6 years in development.
Well, it was time well spent, I think.
Yeah. So I think they just used everything at their disposal that they had and looked at what people were wanting. I mean, this is the time after God of War, the time after Last of Us, Uncharted. People want engaging stories. Like, yeah, gameplay is a huge factor, but what keeps people coming back is that storytelling.
That's what makes me so happy with the video game industry as a whole. Like, I love that all kinds of games exist, and I love that there's such a diverse range, but I've always been interested in compelling stories and compelling characters and being emotionally moved by the games that I play. And the fact that this is where, like, we talked about this on a previous episode, this is what the data suggests that gamers want. This is what top tier developers are focusing on. And this is seemingly where a lot of the industry is moving forward, at least in the console space. Well, I guess also specifically PlayStation. They're kind of like the ones sort of leading the charge when it comes to emotional storytelling in video games. But I really think there's something about this medium that just enhances stories, I think, and makes them so much more impactful. And I love that developers are not just privy to that, but are really focusing on that as the main point of what they're trying to do. And I mean, yes, gameplay is king, but gameplay coupled with narrative, like I think narrative is a gameplay mechanic when done right. And when there's synergy between those two, oh my god, it's absolute perfection. And it's just so fucking cool. And I'm really glad that this is where Sucker Punch is. And I think you can see that this is totally worth their time, because Ghost of Tsushima is their biggest game ever. Ridiculous sales. It's a financial success. It's all but confirmed that Ghost of Tsushima 2 is going to be a thing, because they've put job listings specifically asking for people who are well versed on Japanese history. So, I wonder what that's about. So we know that a sequel is going to happen eventually, and we know that this game was a commercial success and a critical success. So, this is Sucker Punch's big thing. And I think we're going to see more of this kind of thing from them. But now I think it's just going to be an even higher caliber, because now they'll be able to fund it a bit more, just because of how much of a success Ghost of Tsushima is. So I'm excited to see more of this with even higher production values, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, between production values and it'll most certainly be on PlayStation 5, if not exclusive to it. And by that I mean like not on PS4. Mm-hmm. With the sequel, it'll be neat to see what they do with how pretty this game was on PS4. I can only imagine what the capabilities PS5 will have with it. So,
yeah, I'm really excited. I want to see the ray tracing.
Yeah,
with Ghost of Tsushima's lighting and colors and shadows. I want to see that with ray tracing.
on the steel of the sword. That'll be
everything.
Oh my god,
I want it so bad.
Yeah, that'll be a good one.
So I think it's fair to say that we both really enjoyed the game.
Yeah. If I had to give it a number, I'd say a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I think I'd give it a 4.5, a 9 out of 10. I think it's actually I was really impressed with it, and it's a easy platinum. Did you platinum it?
No, I have 3 more trophies left, so I'll probably clear those up. Either, depending on how awake I am after this, either tonight or sometime tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Yeah, the trophies I have are like the last bit of collectibles, and then pray at the fucking unmarked altars, which is stupid, but I'll do it.
Yeah, I used a guide for the unmarked altars.
Oh, same here. Yeah.
That was the only thing I needed a guide for. Everything else, it was just self-explanatory, which was nice.
I had a guide for the Sly Cooper costume because of the climbing at the top of that tower to get it, because I would have never thought to do that because it doesn't look climbable.
Yeah, I think I don't think it was the Sly Cooper costume piece, but there's another tower that also has a collectible on it, and I was using my guiding wind, because all of my first upgrades had to do with navigation, but I was using the guiding wind to try to find collectibles in this area, and it kept pointing me at this building, and I was like, I can't go in this building, there is nothing around this building, why does it keep pointing me at this direction? I don't understand. And then I saw the little corner hook things, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah,
okay.
I think that is a Sly Cooper piece, because that's where you get the I think it was the headband. You get at the top of that.
Well, there's
Because
like 2 or 3 of those towers though with collectibles on it.
No, yeah, for sure. But the one where it's like you can't walk into the building, and you would only notice that it has ropes in the corner of the building is the only one I can think of. Because unless you notice that you can use your grappling hook on it, you would never think that you could climb that building. And you go to like the very tippy top, and it's in the 3rd section of the island. Because I had literally everything else for Sly Cooper's outfit but the headband. And that's because I never thought, like, oh, I can climb that? How? And you have to, like, jump underneath a corner post for the icon to show that you can actually use your grappling hook.
So one thing that I think is a missed opportunity, though, they should have made it so that when you're wearing the Sly Cooper outfit and you're walking across a tightrope, it should make the little tiptoeing sound.
God damn it.
Like, why didn't they do that?
Because none of what he's wearing is stealthy.
Yeah, but just as a little nod. Only when wearing the Sly Cooper costume. I feel like that would have been a nice little... It would have been total fan service, and I would have loved it.
Jesus.
And it would have been adorable.
Not the word I would think to use, but sure.
One thing I do like is, yet again, we have a PlayStation first-party game with an attractive male protagonist who can run around in their underwear. I really like this trend.
Oh, yeah, I was just like, what? But the hot spring outfit.
Mm-hmm. More of that. Now, if they could go back to Infamous Second Son and add it to that game for Delson, that'd be great.
Jesus.
Just letting you know. Sucker Punch, if you're listening.
Do you want to play Legends?
I do, actually. Because that's...
You want to do that tonight?
I mean, I want to, but...
Do you have to? I'm just
I
saying,
have to
like,
work
I'll
at
be
9
up.
in the morning.
Oh, yeah, God. I'm on
So-
vacation, so...
But tomorrow after work...
Okay.
Alright, let's do it. And then we can talk about it on the next episode of Dual Senses.
Sure.
Well,
I want to get the armor sets before they go away. I mean, granted, I'll probably never play the game again after this. I'll probably trade it in.
I mean, I've heard great things about it. I just haven't
Yeah.
played it because usually multiplayer anything just isn't my thing, but I don't know, maybe we'll play it and I'll end up falling in love and then obsessing over it.
Yeah.
One thing I do like, though, is that there is an end goal. Like, it's not just a perpetual thing. They've already released all of the content that's going to be available for Legends mode.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it is a complete thing, and it's not one of those things like Fortnite, you have to fucking play every week, otherwise you miss out. It's not like that at all. It's just play this thing, and then do all the things. Obviously, there's the costumes that go away, but it's not like a huge game thing,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Very cosmetic.
But yeah, I'm excited to try that.
Yeah. All right, cool.
But yeah, I'm glad that you enjoy Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, me too.
I was really excited.
Now I gotta figure out what I'm gonna play next.
Last of Us Part 2.
Nope.
Why not?
Because I have a slew of other games I need to play. Will I buy Last of Us Part 2 before the end of this sale? Probably, because it's $30, and I don't want to spend more than $30 on it. But, like, I still have Horizon Zero Dawn, I've got Demon Souls, I've got Sackboy.
Okay, that's fair. But
Yeah, I got plenty of... I have fucking Days Gone. I got plenty of shit I need to play and like, knock out.
think of it
before I
in
can
terms of
justify.
content, though. Last of Us Part 2 is still relevant, and we can have a spoiler cast for that.
I'm not going to play games like they're work, though. That's going to burn me out.
It's
I'm gonna
not
play the
work,
games
it just
But
adds to more
it'll-
fun later.
But it'll feel like work because I will then be playing the sole game of like, oh, I'm going to play this game for content, and at that point, it's like it's work. I
Well, you
wanna play
already
the game,
said,
so I wanna play
though,
the game.
You don't seem like you're too into Demon Souls. you've already said that you are still waiting for Horizon to pick up, but you've been saying that since you basically started.
Right,
So
that's because I got off the track. Like, now I'm gonna get back on the track. The idea is for me to find a thing and stick with it.
All right.
Like, now that I've got Ghost of Tsushima down, I'm like, all right, cool. Like, that's off the list.
Well, if you end up not liking,
staring me in the face.
If you end up not having fun for any of those, jump over to some Last of Us. It's really good.
That's the idea. Like I said, I'll probably buy it. Will I play it? No, because I want to knock out these other things. That, and I still need to platinum fucking Final Fantasy VII. Because I'm so close to that, and I need to knock that out.
I still need to play Final Fantasy VII Remake.
To fucking talk about a spoiler cast that we need to do, you need to play that game.
I mean, I've played more of the Game of the Year nominees than you have, Alex, so...
Okay, that's great. You could have said that for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And so that means nothing to me.
I'm just saying.
But you need to play Final Fantasy VII.
And you need to play Last of Us Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
So how about this? I'll start Final Fantasy VII when you start Last of Us Part 2.
Because that doesn't make sense, because you already own Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, but I mean, there's other things that I also own.
But I don't own Last of Us Part 2.
You said you're gonna.
I said I'll probably buy it before the end of the sale. Probably, being the key word there.
Anyways, we're fighting like a married couple.
You need to play Final Fantasy VII. You own the damn thing. You got it for free, damn it.
This has been another episode of Dual Senses. I love how, like, it just ends with us fighting. And
Yep.
That's fine. So thanks for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed the spoiler cast. Hopefully we didn't spoil anything for you. Unless you wanted it spoiled, in which case, go for it. But yeah, you all, our listeners, should let us know how you liked Ghost of Tsushima. I want to hear your thoughts. But yeah, you can write comments on mtfproductions.com, or you can email us at bemorethanfriends@gmail.com. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts and follow us on Spotify. Give us a review and a rating. It really helps us out. And if you want to support the show, go to mtfproductions.com/donate. But yeah, until next time, thanks for listening.
Thanks.